Today's webinar will be about Alzheimer's disease and dementia in China. We receive a lot of requests about Alzheimer's and other mental conditions associated with aging. This interest seems to correspond very closely with the increasing incidence of these conditions in the Asian markets. And Alzheimer's disease and other aging-related conditions are particularly pertinent in China as the population growth continues to slow and an elderly segment is taking on an increasingly larger portion of the population. Today, I would expect that this trend and this interest in Alzheimer's, dementia, and other age-related diseases will continue to grow more and more as pharmaceutical companies realize that there is definitely a need for better and better treatments. Today, we look forward to sharing with you a lot of interesting information about the prevalence of these conditions, the treatment types, the medications in China, as well as take you through the patient journey. As a housekeeping rule, please feel free to ask questions at any time. If you have a question, just simply jump on the chat box and type in your question. Either myself, Baldwin, or somebody from my team will make sure that the question is addressed as soon as we can. At this point, I'd like to introduce Baldwin. Baldwin Cha is our research director. He's based in Shanghai. He's from Singapore, and he's done a tremendous amount of research in the healthcare segment in the Asia Pacific region and global as well. He's put together a very interesting presentation on Alzheimer's, and I look forward to listening to it with you. Welcome, Baldwin.
All right, thank you, Jeff. I think a very quick introduction for Jeff as well. He's the managing partner, and he's already had 30 years of experience in Asia. Very experienced in this field as well. So anyway, we have quite a lot to go through as usual. So let's jump right into it. We will be going through the disease landscape in China. Also the treatment and upcoming drugs, and definitely we'll always add a little bit of how does this dovetail into market research, and how does that impact fieldwork and the data collection and projects regarding this disease. So just some background on us and this report. So once every quarter we do a report, as Jeff has mentioned. For this one, we have involved a healthcare professional of 16 years who's been working in the neurology department in North China. So we will be showing you some clips of some of his little tidbits and some videos of what he thinks the market is like, some insights from him as well. Yep. And we'll play these videos as we go along the presentation. So just to introduce, for those who don't know about how is it like in China, I think a lot of it you already know. In China, the country, the market has a aging situation that is a lot like Japan. Right, so by 2050, the Chinese, the population would have doubled what it has today when it comes to the number of elder people. Yeah, so a little table is here for you to see, from 14% jumping all the way to 30% in 2050. So if we look at the patterns, the line charts on how these look like, we would take Japan, because Japan is a very famous market with this aging population as well. We could take some of what they have already done in their government initiatives, what they have done in their healthcare industries, because the aging population does have a significant burden, healthcare burden on the economy, as well as you think of like caregivers. And stuff like that. It actually costs the economy quite a bit. China is also definitely looking into this issue, and there have been some reactionary initiatives from the Chinese government to push for treatment and including more drugs into the Alzheimer's landscape in China. Yeah, so for the dementia rates in China, so just a very quick comparison. Japan, we cannot stress how serious it is in Japan. Like 3.57% of their people are living with dementia. Yeah, in China is only 1.21%, but these are percentages. If we look at the absolute numbers, China is definitely leading with almost 17 million people with dementia. Yeah, a news report from the South China Morning Post actually mentioned in 1990 about 4 million people had dementia, and by 2050 the number will reach about 115 million. So it is quickly getting very serious in China. And um, a quick excerpt, a little video from our doctor here, with some subtitles.
这个跟以前比的话，就是阿尔兹海默症这个发病人群，它肯定是要在社会中的比例要高了。毕竟咱们这个人口现在这个老龄化比较严重啊，这个它这个患其他疾病啊，这个发生这种死亡的几率也小了。那么就是很多人都会进入到这个老年期啊，这个出现这个阿尔茨海默症的几率也是比较大。总体来说的话，这个阿尔茨海默症的发病比率要比以前的话是要高很多。
有一个百分比例吗？大概就可以了。
这个在临床上我这边没有具体的数据，但是就是明显在这个临床上去看的话，应该是比这个10几年前或者是几年前的话，这个比例要高很多。
Yep. So the doctor has also mentioned some very interesting tidbits about the average lifespan increasing quite a bit, and that has also greatly increased the number of people living with dementia and Alzheimer's in China as well. If we look at the different markets using US as a benchmark, and of course including Japan as well as the world average, we can see that China has the most aggressive growth when it comes to actual and forecast numbers. Okay, and then 4 main reasons for this, besides the points that our doctor mentioned earlier. So the 4 main points are aging population, increasing life expectancy. The interesting bit is that in China they have been improving the detection and awareness. A lot of new diagnostics, a lot of awareness, a lot of education has been going on, and people are going to hospitals to check them out. Instead of attributing it just to old age, as well as modernization. Modernization is an interesting one because only in the past maybe a decade or so, there have been studies to show that certain lifestyles would affect the prevalence of Alzheimer's disease. Yeah. So the risk groups that has been identified for Alzheimer's would be, of course, age, gender, and as I mentioned earlier, lifestyle. Females are actually more at higher risk of getting Alzheimer's. Interestingly, we're not going to that, but this is just a landscape for us to see. The interesting bit is the number of factors. Like if you're healthier, you're less likely to get Alzheimer's. So if you're having a score range of 4 to 6 factors, and we have about 7 factors right about here. Here, right, 7 factors. So your risk of Alzheimer's would go down as much as 46.8, maybe let's say 50% less cognitive decline, and maybe 50 to 60% less incidence of dementia. So healthy living, everyone. So going on to the tests that we mentioned, the diagnosis of Alzheimer's that has been introduced into China. So I think for those that I think those here, you already know that in China, you have different classifications of hospitals, and only the specialist hospitals in China would have the latest and the most well-equipped diagnosis to help to detect and to confirm the Alzheimer's disease for their patients. But in general, there are 4 tests that the doctors use. The one will be neurological exams, there will be brain imaging, there will be blood tests, and also there will be depression and mood assessments. So none of these tests should be used as one on its own or individually used. These tests are usually used in tandem with each other. So they usually begin with the mood assessment first, as well as some indication of cognitive decline, or and so on and so forth. We will be going through the patient landscape to show how these tests fit into their journey. But these are just the four main tests that are being used in China. For if you want more information on which areas use what tests, you can contact us after the webinar. These little tidbits about blah blah blah, you can read them on your own time. And so if you want the report, you can contact us as well. Yep, just some interesting tidbits. Yep. So
咱们这边的话，诊断方式有很大变化。既往的话，基本上都是以这个临床症状学诊断为主。现阶段的话，这个你包括这个功能性核磁啊、PET-CT 啊，还有这个脑脊液和这个血液中的这个标志物检查，这个现在都是会帮助咱们在临床上去做诊断。
Yep. And we are right at the patient journey. So from what our HCP has mentioned, all these diagnoses are being used in hospitals, in 3A tertiary hospitals mostly. Usually when a person gets older, above the age of 65 or higher, there are some symptoms of some ADL issues, like ADL meaning activities of daily life. They may, somehow be more forgetful, where they put their keys, where they put stuff like that, forgetting their appointments and things like that, And then they usually go, they may be attributed sometimes by the family members, even themselves, to be, it's old age and it's natural. And usually they won't be a big problem until an incident comes by, an incident that would be concerning the safety, or something that's worrying, like, oh, he got lost or something, he forgot something really important, or stuff like that, and then they would escalate it. Okay, there's been some I wouldn't say mindset, but there's been some they don't like to in China, at least for the cultural reason, people don't like to go to the hospitals to confirm the diagnosis. So there's been a problem in diagnosis and late diagnosis in China as well. But usually when they do, they go to the hospitals directly. They don't really have GPs or PCPs in China. They go to the specialists themselves. In bigger hospitals, they would be the neurology department. Okay, in smaller township hospitals, they are usually not very well equipped with these diagnoses, and they would usually refer them to the larger hospitals. Yeah, and then we see like the four tests that we mentioned: the biomarkers testing, the neuroimaging diagnostics, the basic lab testing, some cognitive tests. Recently, for these cognitive and functional tests, they have been digitalized. Not all hospitals in China, has these digital cognitive tests. Mostly in the tier 1 cities. Yeah, so some in the more rural ones, they still may use pen and paper or other forms. Yeah, once these tests has been administered, the doctor will give them a formal diagnosis, and then they'll proceed to treatment planning. As mentioned earlier, the China has an inherent problem with the culture. Maybe it's the same as well in other Asian countries, but there's been some resistance in getting their symptoms being looked at in the early stages because of a few reasons. One is because of they might feel shame, they might feel embarrassed because there's no formal cure. They think there's a formal cure for Alzheimer's. They think it's like a death sentence to them. So if I go to the hospital, if they go to the hospital, they will feel that they are actually fulfilling their own prophecy or something like that. Yeah, that's why this area here has been lightened out here. Okay, so early symptomatic AD, I put a word here, few. It's been a problem in China. That also means that the medication that's being used to treat early symptomatic AD, they would be limited because people aren't getting their treatment as quickly as they should. Yeah. So after that, they'll be having counseling, and after that, there'll be cognitive training and rehab. This usually includes the caregiver, educating the caregiver on how to take care of the patient, things to take note of, training session, lifestyle management, and so on and so forth. Usually there'll be about 3 to 6 months to see how that patient is doing, and this is usually followed up with the caregiver as well. More frequent visits to the hospital to the neurologist would be made if there are any medication changes or if there are any progression from moderate to severe cases. Okay.
Well, I have a question.
Yes.
Yeah. We've talked about in other webinars about the importance of family members in the decision-making process for treatment and care. And I think China in particular, but to a lot of the Asian countries, but China in particular, the family tends to be really, really prominent in some cases, making all the decisions and doing all the discussions with the doctors, and the patient might not even be aware of a lot of the details about his treatment. And I'm just wondering, do you think with Alzheimer's, given the fact that it is part of an aging condition, it does have a lot to do with memory loss and mental ability loss. Would you see this this aspect of families taking over the treatment decision making larger with dementia and Alzheimer's patients?
And that's a very good question. Great question. So definitely for Alzheimer's, I don't think not only just in China, but we see them for Japan as well. As the severity of the disease progresses, we are always even in field work and everything, the caregivers role increase. Sometimes they may be even more than one caregiver, and that's why sometimes they have to align some of these efforts. Increasingly, the markets, definitely in China as well, they've been seeing more institutions, more societies. The government has been pushing more education, so more groups have been being created to address these issues, both to garner more resources for caregivers. So not only they are family members, but sometimes these decisions can be made with family and friends. Like even in China with the one-child policy, they might have they foresee these problems as well, because there is a limitation on the number of caregivers in China. And definitely, the more, as mentioned earlier, the more severe the disease, the more decision making the caregiver takes, and the more education that needs to be given to these caregivers as well.
Thank you.
Yep. Great. Right. Let's move on. So, as usual, we have a little tidbit from our HCP.
现在的话，在大一点的，像我们这种就是城市的话，大一点的这种三甲医院的话，它这个诊疗还是有一个比较规范的一个流程啊。从这个它的这种量表的智力量表的筛查呀，到它临床症状的这种追溯啊，包括这个它这种影像学的这种检查啊，有的还能做一些这种脑脊液和血液的系统的标志物的检查，这些的话都是诊断范畴内的。到治疗这个阶段的话，你像单胺氧化酶的这个药物，像那个就是安里申呢、伊贝申呢这些药物的话，进口的药物也都有。完了，你包括现在纳入医保范围内的这种国产的仿制品也都有啊。这个药物的话，对药物的话，就是说现有的主流这些药物的话，这个可及性都比较好啊，包括一些国产药物，甚至说是这个价格的话是很低很低的。你相对于以前的这个药物，可能也就是原来的就1/4啊，1/4。
Okay, so which brings us to our next point, the treatment medication in China, which is actually very, very interesting. When it comes to, I think all of you would know the recent policies regarding medication and prices in China, mostly regarding VBP, volume-based procurement, and DRG, diagnosis-related groups. So sorry, these initiatives have reduced the prices of drugs in China. This must have affected a lot of the of definitely in our industry as well, market research and fieldwork, and how these affects the end client. But more interestingly, it also affected the access of drugs as well as the inclusion of generics into the market. So just to give you a very quick overview of the market. So the doctor, the HCP, mentioned that there's only been a couple of drugs. There hasn't been really much progress since 2000, but more specifically 1999, all the way up to today. Okay, I won't be going too much into this, but you can look at it in your own time. But the two drugs that have been only in the market since then are Aricept and Ipixa, and the generics that came after, mostly in 2013, and that's when about 10 to 12 years after the brand name drugs came in, they were approved, and in 2019 VBP and DRG were being implemented in China, pushing down these prices even more, and these generics have been getting much more popular use since then. And an interesting point is that DRG and VBP, these two government initiatives.
You want to come in here?
Yeah. And these were to these actually reduced the prices of up to 80 to 90% of the original price. So very interesting on that. Okay.
If I'd like to kind of we it's not really a question. I think it's a comment. Maybe you can make a comment about it, but in the chat box,
Sure.
it says cognitive decline is a big challenge to overcome in Alzheimer's disease and also in MS. Any advances in overcoming it would have many other applications across different disease states. So, I mean, just to throw that out there. I don't think it's really a question, but
as a yeah. Okay, we have a question. That's a very good comment, though. But we do have a question. As for family members involvement, this is something that that's the same across the markets. Yes, that is exactly right. More so for diseases that involve anything that has cognitive impairment. So we try to get the even in fieldwork, we try to get the family members or the caregivers in from the start, because they would be the ones making the most of the decisions as well. It can be tricky sometimes for fieldwork, but that would be another topic maybe sometime next year in more tips on how to conduct fieldwork and collect data on these diseases. Okay, but for now, we have these little tidbits. Stop responding. There we go.
治疗的话，相对来说要比这个，就是说这一段时间的话，应该说是没有太大的这种突出的这个进展啊。但是这个，总体来说用药的话，因为这个，你像这种就是这种单碱酯酶抑制剂也好啊，还是这个其他一些临床药物，它这个用药年头多了，它这个用药经验上也比以前要好一些。但是，总体来说没有突出的或者说是突破性的这种进展。
Yep. So we can see that there's been his comments on the limitation of drugs as well. However, there is still some preference to use the brand name drugs even amongst the arrival of domestic generics. Yeah, and this is even the case of this doctor in North China.
这个也要根据患者的这个实际的那个承受能力啊。他如果这个具备的条件，那我个人觉得还是原药可能要好一些。但是如果说从性价比来说，或者说他的这种经济承受能力差的话，那你这个还是仿制药的话性价比更高啊。
Yeah. Okay. So with that being said, there's been a real need, a little bit of a pain point from these HCPs when it comes to medication. I mean, throughout the 20 years and having only to use two main drugs. So there has been this HCP that we interviewed here also mentioned that how can it be when there's only two, but we have seen so many drugs they've been come and gone. So this is there are actually two drugs that have been in being fast tracked in China to address this itself. One of it is Leqembi, and the other one is Kisleutina. The compounds are lecanemab and donanemab, respectively. Some of you who are in the know of these two drugs, you already know that they have already been being used in other markets such as the UK, but these drugs are seeing high prices. For example, the ones in the UK, they are not being recommended by the is it the NHS or something, and the whatever, because they don't seem to being improved because of the value for treatment. Okay. However, the interesting bit about China is that the origin VBP policies are pushing these prices down, and these drugs are available in a few selected 3A hospitals in China, but we're not too sure on how much they cost. But we do expect that these prices will push down by these initiatives as well. Yep.
我听说两个就是那个，就是这个，就是说这个阿尔法贝塔，这个叫这个就是两个抗体啊，应该属于说靶向药吧，就是有一个叫这个多纳单抗的，还有一个叫伦卡奈单抗吧，有这两个药我听过啊，它属于这个。就是应该属于相对比较新的，但在国内上不上市我不知道。这应该属于那种淀粉样蛋白的这种靶向抗体的这种药物。
在哪里听到的呀？
这个正常的话，开一些学会呀，还有一些这种，这个就是期刊上都有。
你知道 ？Okay. So his views are actually pretty reflective of what they are expecting as well. So they do know that these drugs are coming in, and they are actually they're actually looking forward to these drugs coming in. However, a quick check at the Chinese market shows that there are actually about 6 to 7 drugs concerning AD that have been being planned or have already been rolled out in phases. The two that we just mentioned, lecanemab and donanemab, these have been fast-tracked. So the expected use of these two drugs would be seen from 2024 to 2025. So as mentioned earlier, some of the tertiary 3A hospitals are already using these drugs. But for his hospital, this HCP that we interviewed, it has not yet been made accessible to him. So locally, there are also the other drugs made by the Chinese companies. I think in our previous webinars, we see that the Chinese domestic generics, they are usually very, very fragmented. Usually one company would make would invest in or would be putting all the efforts into one drug. So but the interesting one is Hengrui, the SHR 1707. This is a more well-known company. And I also want to put a little bit of attention to the GV971 as well. This has been in the market for some time, but it has not been granted a renewal of license due to some hoo-ha that's been seeing in the market due to lack of substantial concrete evidence of its efficacy in Alzheimer's patients. Sorry. So I think GV971 has been taken off the market. So with that, with introduction and taking these drugs off the market, there's been more of these HCPs looking forward to these two drugs that we mentioned earlier. Okay, so that just made the whole situation, I think, more urgent, I would say. Yep. Okay, so
Well,
that, yep.
just to confirm, it was asked in the chat box too. I think it was answered, but just to
Mhm.
confirm that Exelon is on the market and used to treat um, Alzheimer's in China.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, I believe that is the case as well. Okay. So with that is just a very quick overview of this. Of course, how does that translate? How does that dovetail into doing market research for this disease, which is the next part right here. So implications on market research. So as mentioned, we've touched on this a little bit just now. So when we do market research field work on cognitive impairment diseases like Alzheimer's, we have to be extra careful. Yeah, we need to know at which point, at which stage of their disease they're at, and we always want to include the caregiver as early as possible. Sometimes when they have early onset, they can do a diet, which is a dual IDI, two people, both the caregiver and the patient being there for the interview itself. Yep. But when it comes to moderate AD and severe AD, it's usually just the caregiver doing the interview itself. Okay. There are a lot of nuances when it comes to doing research. If you want to know more, you can just ask us. For example, we would recommend that these interviews would be scheduled in the late morning or early afternoon because the elderly patients they tend to get tired or physically and both mentally, and they get a little bit impatient, or they're not in the best moods or best energy levels, and this is further exacerbated by their AD situation as well. Yeah. And a lot of cultural notes have to be taken into consideration as well. For example, the DG, the discussion guide, has to be in the simplest language possible. Sometimes they're being forgetful of stuff. They don't know how to describe certain things. Sometimes visual charts, printouts, and things, and picture visual stimulus are highly recommended. Um, and things about their daily life, their activities. You can have a whole booklet of activities and household objects and stuff that has been related to the research, just in case they forget stuff like that. Yeah. And we definitely have to do some sensitivity training as well as moderator training. Okay, because in some cases there can be some patient or caregiver agitation or distress. Yeah. And over recruitment of patients are usually standard when it comes to these diseases, because we do see some increased dropout rates for these diseases when it gets sensitive. For example, they get a bit agitated when they can't remember something and they don't want to continue. In some cases, we do encourage our moderators to give them a 5-minute break, a water break, a toilet break, or something in between to manage their stress levels, especially for diseases like that. Okay. Yeah. So with that, I think we have just nice reached 35 minutes, come to the end of our very brief introduction and overview of the AD landscape in China. Do we have any questions before we go to see what's new with Holden? Okay, no questions.
Okay. If you
And
could, if anybody has any questions at any time later on or after they've reviewed the materials or something like that, please don't hesitate to reach out to me or Baldwin or somebody on the Holden team. We'll be happy to answer your questions at that time through email or whatever. Um, Okay, and since there aren't any questions, I'd like to just to give you a little bit of a news flash on what's happening at Holden. I've shared it before in other webinars, but I'd just like to reintroduce our very exciting new eQuote tool. eQuote is our online platform that can be used by you to get immediate um, information on costs and feasibility for doing project work in the APAC region. So no longer do you need to wait for our team to come to the office. No longer need to worry about the time zone differences. If you have a need in the region and want to get a good ballpark cost and feasibility, you can just jump on our website, type in your specifications for your project, and out will pop a ballpark cost and feasibility. It's the ideal tool if you're in a rush or if you're just simply, kind of thinking about running a project that's coming down the pipeline. You want to get just kind of general pipeline under figures for costs and feasibility. It's the ideal tool for you. So please don't hesitate to jump on it and use it. If you have any questions about it, just let me know. It is on our website. If
All right. Yep.
Yeah, and I'd like to also tell everybody that this, as with all of our webinars, this has been recorded, and the materials and the recording are on our website. You're more than welcome to get on and access this and share with anybody on your team who you think would be interested or wasn't able to attend the conference. Excuse me, not the conference, but the webinar today. I hope you enjoyed this webinar. I'd like to thank you for joining. I'd like to thank you, Baldwin, for all the the preparation you did for it.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. We have one question here from Malika. Have we conducted ethnographic studies with 80 patients in China? Good question. We do track patient cards. I wouldn't say it would be purely ethnographic. We do have patient forms that we track these. Yeah, but it wouldn't be the easiest to track. There may be high dropout rates and stuff as mentioned earlier. But when it comes to these patients, it's usually just mostly what they use, their medication, how they go about doing their daily lives, their preferred, the doctor's preferred MOA and stuff like that. Yeah, we do expect that in the future there will be more research going into these upcoming drugs as well. Yeah, so with that, let's just look at the last words from our HCP. Okay.
就是说是这个我就是希望这个要是确实是有这个比较明确的，或者临床上疗效比较明确的东西的话，那么能够早日无论是哪个国家研究出来的，你毕竟中国是个老龄化人口在这个日趋加重的这么一个国家，那么就是说它要是能够这个有效的解决这个问题的话，那这个也你在国内这个能够上市的话，也都是一件好事儿啊，我就是这个观点。
Yep. I mentioned the sense of urgency as well. So with that, we've come to the end of our presentation. Thank you for spending your 40 minutes of your fantastic morning with us. Our contact can be found here, our emails, our website. If you have any questions, you can contact us or you can contact Jeff at these emails as well. Okay. Thank you, everyone. If you want the video, you can contact us. If you want the report, you can contact us as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Baldwin, and thank you, everybody, for joining. Look forward to seeing you at our next webinar. It'll probably be sometime in February or March in the new year. And happy Thanksgiving to any Americans who are on the call today.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Okay.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.